Massacre on the beat!
What's going on, everyone? It's Elwin, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Winlife podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, close friend of mine. His name is Thurston II, and I'm going to bring him up shortly. Very happy to have him here at the Winlife podcast. We've been interviewing some of my trader friends, and the goal of the podcast is to expand past simply investing and trading. A big part of it is creative expression, turning those thoughts into things. So not only on a financial level, but I thought that Lewis would be a great person to bring onto this show as we start to transition that content into also the creative side of things. I have a lot of artist friends who have so many gems, so much insight to offer, but we live in a capitalist society, and I think it's integral. It's important that we have a balance between both commerce and art. So without further ado, welcome to the show, brother.
What's up, man? I'm excited to be here. Can't complain. I'm just happy to just see this thing grow into what it's become, man. I remember whenever Winlife was just ideal, discussion, man, on Telegram, where we were really just starting out, man. So I'm just excited to see the growth. You know what I'm saying, man? I'm really just in awe, like full of excitement, glad to see the progression. You know what I'm saying?
Likewise, brother. And yeah, that's a big reason I wanted to have you here today. This show really is about highlighting people on the come up, those who might go overlooked. Even some of the people we're interviewing, they're killing it, but they may not even have any social media presence. So I just want to make sure we highlight the right people. So definitely welcome. And just want to give the people a proper introduction as I start to pick your brain and see what makes Lewis, the EntreProducer, tick. So Thurston II, also known as the EntreProducer, is just that, an entrepreneur and a producer, as well as a trader. He is a Tallahassee, Florida native. Lewis has created a number of businesses. He's also produced some of music's most eclectic artists, such as Royce Levitt and Nivea. Lewis appears to have found that perfect balance that we talk about of art and commerce. The Winlife podcast welcomes Thurston, the EntreProducer, to the show. And that's how we're going to set it off. So
Hey,
once again, thanks for coming. The whole point of this podcast is really to help people with their financial, their investment goals. And like I said, as well as being able to express their self-creativity. So creative wise. So yeah, thanks again. So how you doing today?
No problem, man. I'm doing good. Can't complain. I currently my third or fourth week starting my new job as an audio engineer for the BNC. So add that also to a list of the things that the EntreProducer has figured out time for, bro. I get up at 4 in the morning for a 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. shift, man. So after 2 p.m., I try to schedule some time to just get in the studio, work on music stuff, DJ business stuff, and just really stay focused on, the end goal, like building that legacy, that foundation, that Winlife.
Word. And I want to get into that a little bit later because, like I said, you're an entrepreneur, an artist, but you recently took a corporate or, you took a position at a company. And right. I think a lot of the misconceptions about what it takes to be an entrepreneur is that, you don't work a 9 to 5, you don't have a boss, and I spend my days on the beach. But truth be told, a lot of us entrepreneurs are working jobs, are taking positions, or even at the higher level, they're on corporate boards and, they're CEOs and companies, right. Warren Buffett's on board. So it's
Right.
it's really just a different way of thinking about things. So I really commend you on, getting your weight up on so many levels. And, it's impressive because, you really do a bunch of things, and we'll get into those. But I think a lot of people who have a bunch of skill sets and, really are in a bunch of areas, they don't necessarily give the necessary attention to each. But one thing that is admirable about you is that you run all of your businesses consecutively, and you do them, you make it look effortless. And yeah.
Man, I appreciate it. I gotta say, it's not easy. And it's not for everybody, but anybody could do it, if that makes sense, man. Really just being someone who kind of saw two ends of the ropes. Growing up, I was the only child for like 10 years. And so a lot of my imagination, creativity came from that, upbringing. Really having the drive and the interest in doing my own thing and kind of being, my own boss, or just even having a way for my passion to be my paycheck. All of that came from different entrepreneurs in my family, like my mom, my aunt, and even my dad, even though he worked the corporate 9 to 5. So I kind of saw the ins and outs of both sides of the playing field. And that really instilled a lot into me, to give me just to understand how to leverage my time for what I really wanted to do and be able to really turn it into like a paycheck, pretty much being able to tap into the industries of the financial markets, making beats, producing music, starting my own company for entertainment that'll help and uplift kids, the youth, in a positive way. I started Positive Generation Entertainment whenever I was like, I'd say 17, 18. And then it became official whenever I was like 19 or 20. And as I was in college freshman, I was also a CEO. And that was a very big step that I wanted to take. But it showed me a lot, and it taught me a lot about how to run, something similar to a recording label, where I would bring on artists. We would write a song, produce a song together, and then go out and perform that song. And the songs were written with positive messages behind it. So that's where the whole Positive Generation Entertainment thing came about. But I've been making beats since I was, like I said, 16. Even earlier than that, I was making my own beats at like 13 years old. And then I created my own raps around the beats that I made. And even went to a studio whenever I was like 14, 15 years old. So the music's been with me for a while. And a lot of people, whenever I tell them I've been doing music for over 15 years, they look at me like, wow, that's crazy. I couldn't imagine that. You know what I'm saying? So it's just been quite the journey, man.
You mentioned that you get some of your entrepreneurial influence from your family, that you're in a family of entrepreneurs. So, that definitely puts you at the advantage exposure wise. But how about music? Does that kind of run in a family, or how did you pick that up?
That's a really good question, because I've been into music since I was in elementary school, and we would have like intro to music class, and then they would just give us a bin of different instruments to pick out. And of course, I would always go for the percussion. For some reason, I always wanted to just make beats like the drums. And so I don't know if it came from anybody else in my family predominantly, because my dad, he was in music, but he didn't have like a good singing voice, but he stuck with chorus for like 4 years. It was so funny. His teacher was like, yo, you got to be tone deaf or something. And he was just like, I'm determined to be able to sing. And she was just like, nah, that ain't gonna be the move. But he just had a passion for wanting to do music, but sports was his thing. And then on my mom's side, I believe I get it from her mostly because she was in the gospel choir at the church. But whenever she was also younger, she was in the band, but she wasn't an instrument player. She was actually a flag girl. And so whenever she would do, the flag routines, all of that stuff stemmed from, her love for dance and, having fun, because she also, did roller skating. And so I think I get a lot of my music and just making beats and that whole rhythmic side from my mom. Because I also started out doing hip hop dance, which a lot of people don't know. But if you go on YouTube, just type in L Smooth '09, all one word, you'll see a lot of my throwback, like me doing full out choreography. It's kind of crazy to look back on now to this day, but it was just a good time. Like I've always been one to start dancing in the middle of the grocery store whenever the country and western music was on.
Yeah, I seen you on the gram or, when you do DJ in a
man.
wedding.
Yeah. I'm not afraid to come from behind the DJ booth and like get out there on the dance floor with the crowd and do, the latest dances or the latest line dances.
Do any of those choreographies skills come into handy now? I mean, we're in a TikTok generation and I know you produce for artists, but do you find yourself maybe helping them on that level, maybe set up dances or routines for the songs you put together for them for social or anything like that?
Yeah, I do see that coming around for me very soon. I have yet to really get on TikTok, but I see it more in the youth that I could actually be of better assistance. Because I just think
I can see it now. I mean, with you behind the scenes though,
right.
You produce these artists and you're helping them write the songs and everything. And then it comes down to the presentation and you're like, let me help you out.
Exactly. Like, let me show you where a dance break should go. Let me show you how to work the crowd. Let me show you how to do this move on this side of the stage. Right. Then you'll actually walk and transition to the other side of the stage. But man, I do see it coming back around for me just in guidance type of perspective or like a mentor type perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, if we talk about the business side of the industry, these TikTok songs, every dance is accompanied by a song, and every time that dance gets watched, there's a royalty to that song. So, I mean, my gears are turning, that can really be some synergy there. I know we're not at the point where you can copyright dance moves, but there are ways to monetize it, I'm seeing. And, that's beyond my world too, brother. So I did utilize it a bit, like just doing like freestyles over there, but that was more like Instagram content, kind of syndicated. But yeah, I'm not going to get up there and start, dancing. I'm in my lane. I'm in my 30s. I'm not going to there's nothing wrong with it, but stick with what you do.
Yeah, exactly. Leave that to the kids, man. I definitely understand and believe in passing the torch. So it's like, don't be afraid to kind of take a step back and still, provide a platform for the younger generation to really shine. Like if I'm performing somewhere, if I'm DJing somewhere and I see a kid dancing to my stuff, I'm like, hey, let me get his Instagram. Let me get her Instagram, because they might be the person who will make the song go viral. So I'm like, we could work on something together and get, these challenges going, something that will, lead the way as far as the generation now is concerned.
Right. So, and, that is how content is now. I was going to ask you, like how much time you actually spend strategizing on how you roll out and release content. Right. So,
man, I wish I spent more time on it, but the time that I do spend on it, you would be amazed at how planned out or how detailed I can give you advice on doing it, but I haven't done it myself. So that's a real big thing that I'm working on, is just being able to take my own advice, because having the knowledge and having the experience of seeing it all and seeing how different artists go from one day just posting a song because they just really wanted to do a song and just get it out their mind to going viral. That's two big steps, but along the way, they didn't really plan for that song to catch waves. So it's like, are they able to catch up with the traction on the back end? Like, do they have some type of call to action that clients, customers, fans could take part of, since they saw all of their past releases? Once they see whatever content that is to go viral, how do you continue to keep them in your audience circle or keep them under that audience attention span? And
Right.
that's really my biggest thing, is just once you captivate a niche audience, try to maximize on that. Because I've seen a lot of people just drop the ball at the height, at the pinnacle of their moment. And it's almost like if they would have known just a little bit of insight, they would have been able to have a plan in place to really capitalize on that. So really, I don't take a lot of time to plan out, how to roll out content, but I do know that if you want to be taken serious, be consistent. That's my biggest rule of thumb, man. So it's like anything that we do,
Right.
Any artist that I work with and any artist that I'm gonna be working with in the future with the studio, I'm going to make sure to instill that in them first and foremost, to just let them know, hey, don't just leave it at one song and then just think that it's just gonna grow legs by itself. Like, let's expand on how this one song came about. Like, give us a behind the scenes, a behind the music. Try to turn the purpose of the song or the message behind the song into a 3-part series that you could start a conversation
or a movement
about. Yeah, a movement.
have a meaning,
man,
not
challenge.
just make songs. Or
yeah, for real.
right, like I made a song called Love the Ops maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And this was like, this was when F the Ops was really big in Chicago. Now, ops is an everyday word, but it was just a movement of mine. It started just as an idea, then it became a song, and people really grasped to it. But it was, love the ops. I went to school with you. Like, I used to fool with you. Like, we're the same. And I think that's like how music becomes powerful and actually like resonates and has a staying power, is like, and the more advanced I become at writing songs, like I love to start it with the concept and then let the song evolve off the concept. And I'm just telling you, it just makes music so potent. So potent.
Yeah. Nah, it does, man. Just being able to start that conversation with your music is a big step.
Yeah, so I want to take us a bit back before we go forward. I heard you mention that growing up in Tallahassee, you could have went one or two ways, and you basically, you picked that positive fork. So it's kind of a 2-part thing. One is, what was it like growing up in Tallahassee? Kind of what did you witness, even if you didn't partake in it? And then I see you have, and maybe I will come back to this, but you mentioned how both your parents were in the church. And I want to kind of talk about like how that affected you growing up, and maybe even just like, staying on the right path, but as well as your music, because even, the name of your label, Positive. It's like you put an emphasis on that, but in society, like in hip hop, especially, and in our culture, like that's like the opposite of what gets promoted. So, So yeah, kind of what was it like growing up where you're from? And then how did, your parents exposing you to that, to faith, to that faith affect things as well?
Okay, well, growing up in Tallahassee, as you know, this is the same place that T-Pain is from, Tallahassee Pain. I don't have the same kind of pain that he does, but I do have my own personal pain that came from just childhood, being, single child. My parents did get divorced, and, not to put a damper on anything, but I feel like that also made me the man who I am today, just because that instilled in me a lot of hindsight of just how I wanted my future to go. But growing up in Tallahassee, I knew that there were bad things happening, and I just, stayed away from it. I knew which side of towns to not go on, after dark. I knew which hoods not to hang out in, if you're not wanting to be associated with bad blood, bad company. So it's like the saying goes, if you walk through, a coal mine with white on, expect to get dirty. You know what I'm saying? So you don't really want to be caught in the wrong area at the wrong time. You don't want to get mixed up with the wrong crowd. So I was the kind of guy who really, I began to become almost like a school's, not necessarily mascot, but I was the guy who everybody knew of. But it's like we all were part of different associations. Like,
it was the same for me. I know.
Yeah, I didn't have. Yeah, I didn't have.
You
a
were
lot
cool
of
with all the
friends.
crews. Like you could sit at any lunch table, right?
Any lunch table, yeah, man, bro. Everybody would know. Oh, that's Lewis, bro. He gonna start dancing here soon. Like it was like,
it was like that go L, he can rap. Like,
right,
exactly.
right.
He got the bootleg CDs,
Exactly. Hey, for real, line wire all day.
Yep.
Yeah, man. So I was that guy who was just able to, kind of be a chameleon in the crowd. And so I use that to my advantage. Like I said, to do dancing. I was a part of the band growing up. So being in the band, that also gave me, a lot of insight on just having a crew, because we were all, band members, but then also having that like cool factor, because it's like, oh, he in the band. Oh, that's what's up. What do he play? Percussion. Oh, okay, so he be doing the dance. Yeah, I'm actually the one who be making up the dance routine. So it was like really neat. So growing up in Tallahassee for me was very, very cultivating. I'll say that.
Right.
Yeah, it was very cultivating in a positive way. Whenever I would rap, I didn't have any struggles to rap about that were very like hard and rough. I just rapped about what I knew about. So it's like, give it up for me when I walk through the door. Give it up for me when you see me on the floor. Just give it up. Like, give me applause, give me a shout out, that type of thing. So I kind of only rapped about what I knew of, and that's
how it should be.
How I started up. Yeah, that's how I started up the whole Positive Generation Entertainment thing, because I didn't have, hardships to talk about. So I was like, all my stuff is pretty much positive. People was like, yo, man, whenever you rap, it sounds like Fresh Prince, like Will Smith, you rapping like 90s, is goody. Like, I don't even know how to explain it, but that's the best thing that I could really say to kind of get you to understand just, the lane that I was coming through or kind of carving out for myself, because
right.
A lot of people would hear my rap and they're like, yo, this is actually good. I could turn this on and my grandparents could listen to it, or my little kids could listen to it, and nobody had to worry about bleeping it out or censoring it or turning it down, or it's derogatory or anything that's, being very vulgar. So I was just like that guy who was able to say a positive message, get the point across, and then have fun while doing it. So that was me. And that's where the whole Positive Generation Entertainment thing came from. And having music that resonated positive stuff, it was other folks who wanted to also do that. And I began to bring them in on, some new songs that I wanted to write. And I was like, hey, I'll write a verse, you write a verse. We could collab on the chorus. And we have, some tracks that's even out there to this day. If you just Google Positive Generation Entertainment, you'll be able to find some of the songs that we did. So, yeah.
Definitely. We'll have a link in the description to kind of like your site where they can get to everything.
Hey, yeah, that'll be good.
So yeah. I did kind of want to, I know we had a two-parter of the question, but I did want to kind of ask you, because you mentioned like you were a chameleon at school, you kind of fit in with anybody. So it seems like you had a level of empathy where you can kind of feel where people are coming from, I would say. Yeah. But how has that affected you as a producer and DJ? Because I can only imagine like when you go to a venue, like you can kind of read the temperature of the room, kind of know like this 90s night or,
Right. Nah, yeah. I could definitely pay attention to the crowd, read the energy. I'm a Cancer, so that also plays a lot of factors into just the way my personality developed over time. I'm always a good listener, so that worked hand in hand with producing, being able to listen to somebody just tell me about their ideal for a song and then be able to create what they're hearing in their head and literally nail it so good that they're like, how did you know? I'm like, just listen. Like, that's really what it comes down to, man. I mean, we only got one pair of ears, right, and you have to use them to your best of ability, that you can pretty much, like you said, just be able to provide value just by asking enough questions. So that's really where I come from every day. You know what I'm saying? Day to day, if there's a problem that I'm trying to solve, I'm the guy to listen first and then ask questions later.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how we have to be. We have to, lead with love, lead with listening. Right. And then, then we process that. Then we can ask our questions or say our piece. So, I mean, it sounds simple enough, but these are some skills that people don't have. And,
right,
that's gonna affect your growth process. So let's just kind of, put a little highlight there.
For real.
Yeah. So, yeah, I did still want to ask you kind of just how your faith influences your craft. Because, just like I went to multiple Catholic schools. I was raised Catholic. However, I don't identify with any religion now, but just being around a lot of Christians as well as Catholics, especially Black Catholics and Christians, we will see just kind of like certain values or certain aura around them, almost like a light and just that Christ consciousness that kind of, you could tell. To me, I know I'm not trying to make this religious or anything. Like I said, I don't identify with the religion, but you can tell when someone has Jesus in their heart, right?
Right.
I picked that up in you. So I just kind of wonder how that, like, growing up in that life affected you. I see, like, your parents, one was in the chorus, your mom was a flag girl. And even though your music is not, I wouldn't say like secular or non-secular, but there's a positive aura and there's always like a layer of love in there that I've noticed in all the artists you pick to work with and all of your work. So if you can speak to that a bit.
Yeah. Just plain and simple, having some kind of foundation to fall back on is always key, just because when you're growing up, you have to learn right from wrong, either way. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's getting a whooping, being sent to the corner, like, how does the saying go, man? Whoop the child, spit a rod or something. Don't quote me on that, man. But having some way to instill, the fear of God, the love of God, understanding that every man, was created equally in the image of God. All of those things are factors in, that character building, that developing age. When you're very impressionable, you need something to grasp onto to be able to know how to walk by faith. I identify as Christian, but I'm not in the church every Sunday. Like, I'm more out here doing positive work.
Doing the work.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm more, trying to instill it on a different platform versus making people feel like they're not going to, live in prosperity because they aren't in church. I mean, I feel like the church is within your heart. So that's pretty much anywhere you go. And if you're walking by faith, there's some days that I wake up and I may not know where that next opportunity for financial breakthroughs is going to come through. Like, I'm not an oracle. I don't tell the future, but I always move in a positive light of like, it's going to be fine. It's going to work itself out. And that's something that I can definitely attest to. Being 30 years old now, I've seen it time and time again to where whenever I least expected it, something came through for me, whether it was based off of my energy, my positioning, just me waking up and, you know, working throughout the day with that positive mindset of knowing, okay, something's going to give. Like there's some way that this is going to make a way for me. And be it with my mom, whenever we was just me and her as a single parent household, she would even tell me like, hey, this is going to work itself out. And I'm just like, how? She was like, just have faith. And that's where it's like, that has instilled into me to know how to have a can-do attitude. My business partner tell you, shout out to Zeph. He's like, you're the most resourceful guy I've ever met. And he's like nicknaming me Resourceful Lou because I literally find something that's been handed down or something that's out on the trash pile and be able to like turn it into a resource that we could use for a new wave of progression. And so just having that instilled in me, that really cultivated my music. And like you said, having positive messages behind it, or just having a message of love, or just that energy of love behind whatever I put my hands on. And not to say, you know, every song that we make is just cookie cutter, you know, Barney, Sesame Street clean, but it's like, we can turn up too. You know what I'm saying? We can have fun with it. We can say this word, that word, and not really mean it in a very harsh, aggressive, derogatory way, but we just want to have fun. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Being able to get a message across with the words that we want to say as adults and still have that movement of love or that energy of love behind it. So that's kind of where I would say my faith has definitely evolved over time. And it's grown into what I put my work into today. I mean, like you said, I choose very wisely who I put my energy and art with. So I think that has a lot to do with it for real.
Have you gotten the manifestation process down to a science at all? We talk a lot about, you know, law of attractions, all that good stuff, but more so just look at it on an alchemic level. Not even, I know there's a lot of controversy behind those texts, but a lot of those principles I've studied, I personally have, you know, found methods in how I control my thoughts, what I think, all of that, as far as how I manifest. I just wonder like how you think about that process in hand with your faith. If you kind of see the two overlap, but also you mentioned that you're resourceful, like you have the vision to see something that's right in front of you. So it's almost like, you know, the abundance is all around us. You just need to see. So throwing that out there, what would you kind of speak to that?
I would just say how I feel about it, man. I truly believe in the power of manifestation. If anybody who's listening has not heard of The Secret, go check it out, go research it. But then also research, you know, energies and frequencies that you can listen to be able to begin to draw in, like the same way we can put out into the universe, we could also pull into the universe things that's already out there for us. You may think that it's for somebody else, but low key is for you if you just speak it into existence that you want it. Eventually, in time, you'll get it. Because, I mean, day to day, I've seen it where, you know, even a microphone that I wanted for the studio, I cut out the same exact brand of this microphone and posted it on my wall in my studio. And it took, you know, maybe 6 or 7 years to get it, but eventually it actually manifested itself into my space physically. So it was like not me necessarily, doing affirmations every day, but it was just that visual. It was just me walking into the studio, which was in my apartment, and looking onto my wall and seeing a picture of that microphone. That was me pretty much demanding that same product into my space. And the same principle could be applied to anything, whether it be tangible or non-tangible, believe it or not. It'll just take some time for it to get there. And whenever it does get there, it'll be right on time. I mean, that might be 6 months from whenever you want it versus 5 years from whenever you want it. But even my dad told me about one manifestation that he does every morning. And he rubs like this, it's like a cologne, but it's also like a blessing oil. It's kind of weird, but he uses that, and he says this affirmation every morning. He's like, money cometh to me, and he doesn't know in what form the money is going to come. And it might not even be like physical money, but it's something of value. And every morning he says that, and he looks in the mirror and he says it with conviction like 3 times. And by the end of the day, he has some form of financial like breakthrough, upliftment. Something of value has manifested itself into his space, whether it be a donation check or somebody just saying, hey, I want to donate some shoes to your cause, anything of that nature, man. So it's just really crazy kind of being able to see stuff come to fruition that a lot of people talk about, but they don't really believe in enough to actually see it for themselves.
Yeah, I like your dad's one because I think for me, especially, the association with scent is so strong. Mm-hmm. So I might need to kind of take that method, have my money sent, and then I just take a whiff, and then it's already embedded in my brain.
Exactly, man. Nah, there's something about it because even in the Indian tradition, their heritage, if you notice, they like burn different herbs. And one that I burn is Palo Santos. And that's really a nice scent. But a lot of people use that to cleanse a home, cleanse a space, and use it for manifestation, like rituals or blessings. They will walk around their house and have that scent, just smoldering. Right. To where they light it and they just let the smoke just literally cleanse the air. I mean, it's almost like an air freshener, but as the smoke is going, they're blessing the home. They're speaking life over a certain situation. They're like really cleansing the bad energies out of the area. So that's really something that I truly
do you think the actual herb has an effect, or it's just more so reinstating your faith and your belief, just like your mom put you on as a shorty too?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. Anybody could burn the scent, but it's a matter of having that belief behind it.
The ritual.
Yeah, the ritual, because even if you look way back in, 800 BC, right, like they did certain things of this same method. You know what I'm saying? The Indians, and shout out to Indigenous Peoples Day, which is today.
It is. I should know that. I've been learning more about my indigenous roots.
Listen, man. Yeah, man. Tap in with that for real. So it's a little bit of both. I would say it's the scent, it's the herb that you're burning, but then it's also your belief in what you're saying and having that conviction behind that scent. That scent is almost just like an activator for what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah, man.
Before we shift gears here, you mentioned that your father receives donations for his cause. Did you want to tell us about the cause at all, or shout it out?
Yes, absolutely. Like I said at the beginning of this podcast, his thing was sports. And what's a funny story is that whenever I was younger, he wanted me to get into sports as much as he was. And I was just like, hey, Dad, sports is your thing. But I really love music and entertainment and the arts. And from that one moment of me literally telling him, hey, Dad, I'm good on, being into sports, he created a non-for-profit called Sports My Choice. And so every year he works with underprivileged kids to help them get access to different items for class and playing in, little league sports. And then he's also working on collecting shoes for his cause that helps the kids, but then it also helps third world countries get into entrepreneurship. So he is doing Sports My Choice as his not-for-profit, but is going towards a good cause of instilling that entrepreneur drive and getting people proper like footwear that they need to really walk about the places that aren't, paved everywhere, like Haiti, Puerto Rico, the different areas that are very low income. He's doing great work. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, definitely check him out. Sports My Choice, 501c3, and yeah.
Where can they look this up or donate or anything like that?
I would say on Facebook would be the best place, and he's on Facebook as well. You could definitely check him out either there or just Google Sports My Choice.
Okay, yeah, we'll get a link in the description for anyone that wants to donate or send anything is greatly appreciated, and we do want to use this platform to really encourage philanthropy and giving back, and not just talk about getting it, got the new car, I'm getting this bread, I'm a master trader,
right.
Other things to life. So
yeah, for real.
So I actually do want to ask you about your trading here, but I didn't want to forget to ask you about your creative process as a producer and writer. How does your process kind of go, and maybe even how has it evolved? And I was thinking maybe you start with percussion every time or something, just because of what you're telling me. But I'm curious to know your process.
Man, believe it or not, when I start the process of, getting into making a beat, sometimes I'm listening through some of the sounds that I have to find inspiration. Sometimes I listen to some old school music and see if I can find, new samples to mess around with. A lot of people are taking these 90s and 2000 songs and turning those into hits again, man. So I'm just like trying to think ahead of the game of like what would be the next song that would be a good one. You know what I'm saying? So as soon as I have, a spark to try and, come up with something creatively, I get in the studio or I get on my phone and I begin to either record my idea as a video so that I have like the audio, or I record like a voice note.
That's what I do. Yep.
Yeah. And so if I'm not able to get to the studio where like my laptop is, then that's what I'll do. But then if I do have my laptop, I'll literally like go through some sounds. My favorite VST right now is Arcade Output, or Output by Arcade. No, Arcade by Output. There it is. And they have a plethora of different sounds, different loops that you can chop up.
Hey, cut my man in the chat. Keep promoting y'all.
Yeah, man, for real. I'm putting y'all on, man. I'm gonna put my referral link.
If you got a referral link,
yeah, I got a referral link for everybody, man. But man, I have so many sounds that I've collected over the times that it's so hard to not be inspired by something. And I've gotten into sound design even, but that's one of my biggest things that I don't have a starting off point where I go by it every time, but I'll listen to some samples, listen to some sounds, some loops. I don't have a problem with using loops at all, man. I know it's a big debate on producers who use loops ain't real producers. And I'm just like, bruh, it's how you work whatever you got to work with. Like, that's really what it comes down to.
And hip hop started on samples, and
hip hop started
the rock
on
bands
sampling.
were saying that, these guys aren't real producers. So that argument's been debunked,
Debunked all the way, man. I mean, the research is there. Like, just stop it for real. Like,
and we all know if you just take a James Brown loop and you don't do anything to it, like,
right,
that's one thing. But if First off, if the record comes out dope, we don't care.
Exactly. We do not care, bro. Like Diddy did it first. He did not care whenever he was jacking all these old school joints and putting Notorious B.I.G. on it and just flipping a sample. He did not care. Look at where he is right now, man. That is where not giving a fuck takes you. And
I think that's what separates. We have beat makers, we have engineers, you know, but we also have producers. And and I kind of wanted to ask you because I think that's what separates a little bit. It's just like if you're a producer, you're overseeing the whole thing. You're not just making a beat or, you know, you're not just mixing it down. But what do you see as a producer that separates you from if someone says, oh, you're a beat maker or you engineer?
Nah, man. I let everybody know that I'm a record producer up front, because if I'm going to take the time out to like really invest in you and your ideal, I'm a record producer at this point, because what we're going to create is more than just a beat. It's more than just an instrumental. It's more than just a song and a beat put together and it just sounds good. This is going to be like a vibe. Like we're going to create this sound, this synergy that people will be able to get and feel whenever they turn this record on. So I'm more so into creating hits, but unintentional hits that just start out as grooves or vibes. And a lot of people who I look up to who have been able to make this happen is like Timbaland, P. Diddy, of course, Quincy Jones, Berry Gordy, those guys who were able to just take, Smokey Robinson was just a musical genius on the keys and just songwriting in general, but he was able to take somebody's conversation and create a whole like song around it, and it would resonate with so many people because somebody somewhere was going through whatever that conversation was about. And I just find it amazing how composers, record producers are able to get that point across. So a lot of my, I guess, beat making beginnings evolved into me wanting to just produce records. And a lot of people may, add extra weight to that. But for me, I just literally keep it at record producer because that defines my interest and my investment of wanting to get your ideal into an actual feeling and a track. So that's what I would have to say. Yeah.
Right. It's like a screenwriter needs a director to bring it to life. And someone got to make those decisions and be at the helm for it to come out what it's like. But yeah, I definitely think that you named all those legendary producers. One thing that in all their music it was just very like universal music that, even if Diddy was, very hip hop driven, Timbaland with Aaliyah and stuff, but the emotions, the concepts behind it, just, everyone can kind of feel it. And it does kind of make me think about you still in that lunchroom, that proverbial lunchroom, and you can fit in with all groups. And it's almost like you're starting your market research for your world takeover eventually. So it's like it all laid out to where you're at.
Exactly. And not to discredit or not mention the greats of Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, Prince, Madonna, even those individuals being able to literally just make the sound with their mouths and getting that to convey to the musicians for them to understand this is the ideal that they're hearing in their head. Beyonce does it to this day. I think she gets it a lot from Michael Jackson. But even like Ike and Tina Turner, Aretha Franklin, like all the greats, man. So I just had to mention them as well.
Yeah, I want to put myself, I'm not like a great up there with the rank yet, but my process is the same in how I can communicate with others to get that vision out. So I think that is because when I started as a artist, one of the hardest things, it was always like, I have these dope ideas in my head, but I don't have the tools to articulate them. I can't flow like that. I don't know how to write, like streams of thoughts, but over time you practice the craft and you learn your conventions and you study, and then you begin to basically learn a whole new language. And it's the same when I
Yep.
work with any new producer or artist. We have to learn how to communicate, with terms or just energy. But the more and more I do it, the better I get at the process, the quicker I can mesh with a lot of people. So it is definitely like a skill set that we pick up, like an emotional intelligence.
Yes, it becomes one of those 10,000 hour type things.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
man. We know about that.
That's a perfect segue, because I did want to kind of get us out of here, because I don't want our interviews to go for 3 hours. But how has trading been? How have you been able to stick with it? Or how's it been progressing with you being wearing so many hats?
That's a great question, man. I would say it's been a learning lesson that never ends. And, we've always been hungry for that breakthrough. And even though we're both, into trading, we do it individually. We have come into this thing almost kind of like line brothers with Forexia, bro. Like, being that we were able to see so many inside like ways to know how the market moves and how it acts and breathes and the habits of it, being able to identify everything that we can now, I wouldn't trade it in for the world, man. And so my trading's currently going not so good. And I'm pretty sure I'm like the first to say that on this podcast. I don't want to cap. But I've been in a constant back and forth with myself and knowing what not to do, but still getting disciplined to stick with it. So I'm doing way better than I did last year, the year before that. And each year I can see the growth. Currently right now, I am holding so much crypto that I have taken a step back on the full Forex goal, like being that I'm working a full-time job now, DJing as well. I'm like, and running a music studio. Like, I'm like, man, let me really find my groove for this, because it's not something that I want to do, every day when I'm sitting at the screen trying to, map out my next play. But if I have a move or like a energy, a certain feeling to, hey, get in the market, I want to be in a position to have that capital to work with on a substantial amount so that I can maximize on the knowledge that I know. Like,
is that why you were saying you wanted to get more into swing trading, just because of how things are?
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Just because how things are, I know where I see myself going. I'm still going to want to be able to, make some moves in the market, but I want those moves to be investments. You know what I'm saying? I'm not in the market to just scrape up crumbs, even though ain't nothing wrong with getting in for a 15-minute scalp and then being done for the day, for the week, for the month. I want to catch some moves where I'm like, hey, I've been in this thing for 3 months as an investor. You know what I'm saying? Catching those big moves that the financial big boys, like corporate moves, catch. You know what I'm saying? So I have drifted more into the side of swing trading and EAs, expert advisors. I love automation. I don't know what my infatuation is with it, but I really do love artificial intelligence and getting into the financial markets the same way people on Wall Street are currently doing it. I mean, you have software that's trading for hedge funds that's ran by a bank, and SunTrust has one, Wells Fargo has one, Chase has one, Regions has one. I mean, Bank of America, they have one. They all have a Forex department. And believe it or not, it's not humans in there running that. Believe it or not, it's a human maybe in there overseeing, like making sure that the trade hits take profit or they just closing profit. But 9 times out of 10, their signals when to get in, when to get out is not by human advancement.
But let's not forget that those bots, those EAs are programmed by humans who are paying attention to the market and are making the bots work for them, right?
Facts. No, yes, that is definitely something to include in this whole spiel, man.
Right. The reason I say that is because people might be getting a light bulb right now, like, yo, I just got to get a bot and I'm good.
Hold on, wait a minute. Do not just think that all you got to do is just get a bot and you good. Please do not get it twisted, man. I think I was just going down the EA glory road too long. But yes, you do.
And I will say, like, you've been working with EAs for years. Like you told me about them, and I never got into them really. I have had a student help me like make an EA for how I like to do my twin position. So it's a tool, like you said. But to Lewis's credit, he's been working with EAs and tweaking them and testing them for years. So it's not like he just got one. So either way, he had to put 10,000 hours in with the bots. So no way around it.
No way around it, man. It's just been a journey. I would definitely say it's not for everybody, but anybody could do it. Same with running a music studio, same with DJing, same with producing beats and taking on the task of developing artists. These are all things that, you can take time to really put that energy and that effort into learning these skills and have them be able to make a way for you. One thing that I do know for a fact is that my dad, he's very admiring of my interest in just getting into the stock market, getting into the crypto world. I believe I told him about Bitcoin back in 2013, 2014. And I mean, even back then, a lot of the stuff that I was saying, I was putting on Instagram, Facebook. I never really became like a big, heavy influencer with it, but I had my, small target market. And folks who, saw what I was posting back then, they come to me now and they're like, yo, man, I know you made a killing. And I'm like, I ain't make a killing, but I definitely made it out better than those who didn't, take heed to what I was sharing. So it's just been a journey, man. I really would say that my trading lifestyle now has evolved so much that I can really walk into a room and have a certain posture about myself just because I do know certain things. Yeah,
like we start talking and people are like, you like know some stuff, but we don't realize it's just like what we do. But it's that perspective when you step out of our circle where, you probably saying, acronyms, like, what are you talking about? Like HT, higher time frame, bro. Like, what are you talking about?
BOS, like, come on.
Break of structure. What are you doing, bro?
They be like, yo, I've been thinking about getting into stocks. And I'm just like, that's all good and everything. But let me know when you're serious. Like, I really be just listening more. Like, it goes back to listening. I listen way more than trying to tell all about what I'm, into, what I've done, what I'm capable of, because everybody's not entitled to knowing that, having that kind of access to you, if you know what I mean.
I mean, I used to be like, well, I want everyone to know and everything I need. Look what I learned. But after a while, you just get tired of like flapping your gums, So
it's like, as long as I'm good in my lane, when they get it, they'll get it. If they never do, then it wasn't meant for them.
Yeah, and it's a big world out there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that was awesome, brother. I really appreciate you for coming through, doing the podcast, and just showing someone who really has his hands in, all different avenues and still crushing it. Still had time to get the home situated, get married, had an amazing wedding.
Got a kid on the way now.
Come on.
Bro.
So it's not just the business, the trading, the music. You have a full life, right? Some people have all the money in the world, but they don't find love and they don't have that family structure. But it seems like you really are winning there.
Come on, man. Like, for real, no shout out to them. Like, we're not going to get no kind of check for endorsing this. But on some Squid Game type stuff, we kind of done been through a lot of these games, man. We done seen a couple folks like fall off. So we've been in this thing for a while, bro. And like you said, everybody knows, everybody can have the money, but if they don't have like that life around it, like that purpose, their why with them, what's the point? You know what I'm saying? You seen what happened at the end of the whole episode thing, man. I was just
no spoilers, but I
no spoilers. Man. But man, I'm just like, we really out here living this lifestyle, and it resonated with me, man, for real. Just to know that we've been through, you know, so much coming up just on this journey, and now that we're here, you know, we're looking forward to seeing what the next 5 years bring, or what the next 10 years bring. Just in our lanes, like the way we've been moving. So I appreciate you, man, for taking the step to create this podcast, this platform for me. Check me out on all socials. EntreProducer, that's ENTRE, producer, PRODUCER. If you need a DJ for any virtual stuff, holla at me. I do virtual DJing whenever I need to. Yeah, man, I'm a special. I specialize in creating the perfect. I mean, I wouldn't say perfect, but close to perfect music, audible atmosphere. So just know that, man.
It's an art.
Yes, it is, man. It is. It really is.
All right. So before we get out of here, I got one more question. We ask all our guests at the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
What does winning at life mean to you?
Winning at life for me means knowing you have what it takes to continue moving forward if everything was stripped away from you within a blink of an eye. That's what winning life to me means, man.
Right. Being full without needing anything.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
For real. For real.
That's what's up. Hey, so we got another one in the books.
Yes.
Much love. Thanks for doing this, brother. And
no
we're
problem,
out.
man. Anytime.
That went with the Winlife podcast. Peace out.